right, Drew, I've got other folks wanting in. Do you have any final words before I cycle through?
No, I'm good.
All right, well, thanks for stopping in. Who's next, Katrina? I think Katrina stepped away. Let's see.
I'm sorry, I'm chatting with my parents.
All right, we got two people in here now then.
Okay.
All right, Brandy, what's up?
Hi, I've been listening. This has been really fun, but I disagree that Christ wasn't real because I'm a researcher and I love documenting things. But I completely agree that Christianity is not what it's made out to be.
So what evidence do you have that Jesus was real?
It's basically the documentation of Paul. Tacitus wrote about it when he was talking about the Christians and everything.
So Tacitus said that Christianity was a mischievous superstition. That means it's not true. And Tacitus didn't even call Jesus by his name. He called him by some title of Christus. He didn't even spell Christus right.
I know, but the point is there was. I'm not saying that it's the person that the church says it is, but the person that we relate to as Jesus was an actual person.
But Tacitus in no way testifies that Jesus was a real person. Tacitus is only testifying that people believed in Jesus. That people call themselves Christians because some guy named Christus died, but he didn't even get his name right.
Oh, well, Jesus is not even his name.
Well, Jesus was his name.
It's closer to Joshua.
No.
Being translated, it's closer to Joshua.
Okay, so, Brandy, there is no document in existence that calls Jesus Yeshua. None.
No.
People only made this up because they say he was a Hebrew, so he had to have a Hebrew name instead of a Greek name, so they want to say that he had a Hebrew name. They made it up. There is no document that ever called him that.
I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that there was a person at one time that Jesus is based on.
I disagree.
Well, we can disagree on that, but as far as the church goes, the church has changed so much over the last couple thousand years. It changes due to...
So do you think the church was good in the 4th century when it was the strongest?
No, of course not. It was about power.
Oh, okay then. So why are you saying it's always been evil? From the beginning of time, the Christian church has always been evil.
The Christian church is a monster.
And it always has been. It wasn't good at one time and get corrupted.
I mean, the church in its infancy was a sect of Judaism.
That is false, Brandy. That is absolutely false. No Jews were ever Christians. You have to reject Judaism to be a Christian.
This was before it was Christianity.
No, it didn't exist before it was Christianity.
That's what I'm saying. I said in its infancy, it was a sect of the Jews.
Well, you're wrong, Brandy. It was never a sect of Judaism. It was a Roman religion. It was a pagan religion from the very get-go. The Romans and the Jews fought a war. The Jews wanted to hold on to Judaism so bad that they sacrificed their life for Judaism. They were not fighting for Jesus or Christianity. They were fighting for Judaism.
Back then, Judaism was very powerful. The Romans didn't really mess with them that much.
What? The Romans destroyed the Jews.
Eventually, but the point that I'm talking about was when the time that Christ was supposedly alive and lived, we're agreeing to disagree on the fact that he was a real person or not. But the reason that the Romans were after Christ was because people started calling him the Lord. And the Jews said, no, that's not right. We're not having anything to do with it.
Brandy, Jesus did not exist. We're not agreeing to disagree. That is the whole point of this. Jesus was a mythical character created just like Spider-Man in response to a war between the Romans and the Jews. There is no evidence whatsoever that there was a man who died in the 30s.
It needs a historical documentation where it was made up.
So they don't write things and say, oh, by the way, this is all fake. You have to realize why they wrote the stuff.
On both sides. But what that's just it. Nobody has any document. There's no proof.
There is proof, Brandy, and it's right. It's in my book, Jesus Demigod. The Greek philosophy.
Do you have research to back it up in your book?
Yes, absolutely. I quote my sources. I show you what the history actually shows, and how the Christian narrative is completely unsupported, and that the evidence actually shows that Jesus didn't exist until the Romans created him.
Jesus came into existence with Paul after Paul miraculously converted after Jesus came to him.
Okay, so Paul didn't write anything, because even the letters that are considered to be genuine Pauline, such as Corinthians and Romans, these are by scholars are saying, oh, Paul definitely wrote these. Well, they were written after the war because they make references to the cutting off of Israel. They make references to the needy saints at Jerusalem. There were no needy saints at Jerusalem until the war. The war is what caused the saints to be needy in Jerusalem. The war was in the 60s and 70s. This was after Paul was supposedly dead. So they created Paul as a fictional character also.
And what about the disciples? Were they all created as well?
All fictional. There is not a single person who ever met any apostle. None. Nobody.
So
no church father. Not even Clement of Rome.
So the ones that were martyred by the Romans, they didn't exist.
Correct. That's fictional stories. They created these stories about the martyrdom of the apostles because they never existed. And this is the only explanation they could give for why nobody ever met them. Clement of Rome, who was the second pope of the Roman Church, according to some people, he never even met any of the apostles. He did. We've got a letter from him, and he says, well, Peter and Paul died and went to heaven. He doesn't even tell how they died. They were not martyred or anything. But hundreds of years later, they say, oh, well, Paul had his head cut off and milk spewed out of his neck, and Peter was crucified upside down because he didn't think he was worthy to be crucified the same way as his Lord.
That's
pure mythology.
Propaganda. That's just propaganda there, but I'm a firm believer that in stories like this, that there's always a grain of truth. Somewhere deep down.
Okay, so the grain of truth is that there was a war between the Romans and the Jews, and the Jews, the reason they had the war is because of religion. The Jews revolted against Rome because they thought God would send them a victorious Messiah to liberate them from Rome. So when the Romans destroyed the Jews, the Romans replaced their religion with a fictional Messiah that was actually based on the Caesar himself. So the reason Jesus started his ministry in Galilee and moved down to Jerusalem is because Titus started his military campaign in Galilee and he moved down to Jerusalem. So the real person behind Jesus is Caesar Titus, the son of God, the son of Vespasian. This is who the real person behind Jesus is, the Caesar of Rome.
Listen to you. I'm also trying to read through some of my own notes here as well.
So listen, Brandy. What I just said was extremely important. Did you hear what I just said?
Yes, I did. The religious war between Titus and...
Right. And so the person behind Jesus, instead of the Son of God, it was the Son of Caesar, who was the divine. You can go to the Arch of Titus right now over in Rome, and it says this arch is dedicated to the divine Titus, who was the son of divine Vespasian. So it says right on the Arch of Titus that Titus is the son of God.
Well, all the emperors were basically, and Egyptian rulers and stuff, they were all gods and from gods.
Right, and so this is, when you're reading the New Testament, you're actually reading about Titus and not Jesus. Jesus is who they said, we'll call Titus the Jewish Messiah, and this is actually what Josephus even said in his writings. We've still got it today, that Titus says that Vespasian, who was the real Caesar at the time, that he was the fulfillment of the Jewish oracles, that there was going to be a ruler come from Judea to rule the whole world. He said this is talking about Vespasian. It says it right in Josephus's writings, that Vespasian is the Messiah, is the fulfillment of the Jewish prophecies. The God and the Son of God, Vespasian and Titus.
I mean, Titus was one of the best emperors of Rome at the time.
Well, Vespasian was the emperor Titus was his son. Titus only ruled as emperor for 2 years because from 79 to 81, I think. But Vespasian was the emperor from 69 to 79 for 10 years.
I'm sorry, I've got my emperors wrong. My brain went flatline there. I'm thinking Pliny of the younger years here.
Yeah, that was in Trajan, I think.
Yeah, Trajan. My brain went Trajan. I was thinking Trajan, but said Titus.
Yeah, so Vespasian and Titus was in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then, there was even a third Flavian. They call this the Flavian dynasty because Vespasian was the daddy, and he had two sons named Titus and Domitian. Domitian reigned up until like 98. So he ruled from 81 to 98. Or maybe it was 96. So it was 15 years. So Vespasian ruled for 10. Titus for 2, and Domitian for 15, and this is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost in the Bible. Jesus said, "When I leave, I'll send you the Holy Spirit to guide you into all truth." Well, that was Domitian, and most of these, it's possible that this narrative was even created during the reign of Domitian.
Well, if we want to talk about monsters, Domitian's right up there.
Of course. All Roman emperors were evil tyrants and dictators. This is who wrote the New Testament, and you can know it because Jesus himself is an evil tyrant and a dictator. Jesus says, if you don't believe that I am he, you will die in your sins. It says, I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and my message is that you need to repent or you're going to perish, and you're going to be thrown in hell, which was a literal ditch outside Jerusalem where they burned dead bodies. So Jesus was the evil, tyrannical dictator, demanding obedience. He says, when somebody says, "Oh, your mother and your brothers are looking for you," he's like, "Who's my mother and brothers?" My family is whoever obeys me. You see, this is what a tyrannical dictator would say. I don't care about anybody unless they obey me. And if they don't obey me, then they're nothing to me, and they're going to get wiped out.
I mean,
if you obey me, then
in some ways, I can agree with you on that one because, I mean, if you look at the stories of his younger life when he went bonkers in the temples, and when he was with his people and with his disciples, and the woman came to ask for help for her child, and they called her a dog, and Jesus like, "Why should I help you?" He wasn't actually the nicest person in the world.
Correct. People paint this picture that Jesus was a loving, kind person, but he wasn't. He was an evil tyrant.
I never believed that. I believe that these people, and this is where we disagree again, because I believe that he was a historical person, completely.
He was Titus. So he was Titus, the Caesar.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Jesus was a real person, whether he was actually Jesus that the church says it is or not. There was a person that.
Okay, so I can agree with you, but I'll say the person behind Jesus was Titus, the son of God, the son of Caesar.
But the Christian religion is monstrous, and the only reason they are as big as they are is because they destroyed everything. If you didn't believe what they believed, you were killed, and they destroyed it, and you were forced to believe it.
Correct, and that's what Jesus said too. So Jesus said the same thing. Repent or perish. In Luke 19:27, Jesus said, "Bring all those who would not."
Interrupt. Brandy, you can't say the K word, or Jeff will get taken down. You have to say
sorry.
Yeah. So
okay.
I didn't even realize she said it, but in Luke 19:27, Jesus tells a parable, and at the end of the parable, which is supposed to be where Jesus is the king says, "Bring all those who would not let me rule over them, who didn't accept me as their king, and unalive them in front of me." So this is Jesus in Luke chapter 19 saying, whoever doesn't obey me, whoever doesn't accept me as their king, as their Lord, then they are going to die right in front of my eyes. That's Jesus in Luke 19.
Because my studies, I've done classical studies, and I've done mostly Reformation forward. I'm just now studying pre-Reformation. And the church it's scary. I was raised a Southern Baptist. And we were told as children that all of the denominations of the church were wrong and that they would be going to hell and that we were the only ones going to heaven.
Right. And, my denomination was the Church of Christ, and they taught the same thing every day. All the Baptists are going to hell, and the Methodists and the Presbyterians, the Catholics, everybody's going to hell. The atheists, they're all going to hell, but we're the only ones that are right.
And considering the Christian church is a baby church, it's still a baby considered as other religions.
Well, it's more mature than Islam.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like Judaism, Hinduism.
Well, so Judaism hasn't existed for 2,000 years in its at least in its original form, because you don't have a temple. You can't observe Judaism today. So Judaism essentially died when the temple was destroyed.
There's countless dead religions.
But the Judaism that you know today is also a new religion. Mm-hmm. It's the same. You could say it's the same age as Christianity, because the Romans, when they destroyed the Jews, they changed Judaism and they created Christianity at essentially the same time.
But what about Hinduism then? Hinduism is
Hinduism is ancient religion, of course.
Yeah, I mean for the fact that it's still around. Says a lot how strong their belief is, but it's literally Christianity became strong because they just took over. I always thought of the Romans like the Borg. They assimilated. They took everything in and just made it into themselves.
Correct. So this is a good point to make. So when Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, he created a new god and a new religion to unify the Greeks and the Egyptians. It's called Serapis. It's the Serapis cult. So Serapis was a combination of a Greek god and the Egyptian gods, and said, now we'll merge the two. When the Romans destroyed the Greeks and took over the world, the Romans
they just took their gods and said,
they took all their gods, they just changed their names and said, look, you can still have your Greek gods, you just have to call him Jupiter now instead of Zeus. That's all, just call him Jupiter.
That was the big beef between the Romans and the Christians, where the Romans said, we don't really care what you're doing, but you have to worship the other gods and sacrifice the other gods. And the Christians went, oh no, we can't do that.
Well, so it was actually the Jews who said that. So, and the Romans just flipped the script and told you it was Christians. In reality, it was the Jews that said, no, we can't worship the gods the way you want to, because they were Jews. They were not Christians. Mm-hmm. And so then the Romans created Christianity to replace the Jews, and then so then they tell the story as if it was the Christians that were persecuted by the Romans, but it wasn't. It was the Jews. So Christianity was never a sect of the Jews. Christianity was a new religion that was created by the Romans to replace Judaism. And then
I've not come across that in my studies. I'll have to do some looking.
Well, you have to use logic. You're not going to find any document that says, oh, the Romans created Christianity. You have to use logic to come to this conclusion.
Yeah, I completely understand that, but I'm talking about from other research and stuff like that, and just basically a pilot kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, so my book is a really good book where you can see the evidence. Huh?
Is your book listed here? I'm just...
Jesus Demigod is the name of it. Jesus Demigod. I've got it linked in my profile.
I'm always up for new information. And if you know what everything, that's great.
I believe I've attached my series to this live. My series is just me reading the book, but I don't have the whole book up yet, because after I started recording the videos, TikTok said, oh, we've got to do an update to series, and now nobody can update any series. So, and this has been several months now, so I don't know what's taking them so long to fix the series so we can upload new videos. But whenever they fix that, I'm going to put the whole book up. I've just got like 4 or 5 chapters available right now.
I mean, this is fiction, but it plays into how you're talking about, how they made up Christ and everything. I'm in the middle of writing a book about the devil, and it's called Luke, First Son of Heaven. And in the book, he's the most beloved first creation of God. God still loves him. The reason he felt the earth was because he loved the humans so much he wanted to learn what it meant to be human. And so he goes through centuries of playing all the parts of humanity to try to understand humanity. Now, 200 years from now, somebody could read that and go, oh, this is the real truth, and start a whole religion on that.
Yeah.
And so that's how it plays into.
Well, that's why I don't think we should write books like that, because what you're doing is you're potentially, I mean, you have no, it sounds like you're just writing a fictional book of
It's completely
philosophy.
fiction. It is
Right.
fiction.
Right.
And it's down as fiction. I'm not trying to...
So I would, you know, as long as you express that, you know, in the preface or something like that, tell people this is a fiction, it's for entertainment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying is it's the narrative. You know, someone could read that and go, oh my gosh, this is not real fiction. She's been touched by God. This is a true story.
Right. And so that's not what. So I want to inform people of the truth and the scams and the lies, and that's the reason I write. And so if anybody ever gets my book,
pure fiction for
right.
This is pure
If
fiction.
anybody ever reads my book, it will help humanity avoid lies instead of confusion.
My point on that was not that I'm trying to put it off as real. My point is the narrative of it is false. That whole story is false. And the Bible was written as a narrative to convince people to believe a certain way.
Correct. Which has caused a lot of harm in the world.
So much harm, and but the problem is people go, this is God's will. It's not God's will. It's people's will. It's the powers that be.
Correct.
They do stuff and they use God as a reason so they can get away with it.
All right, well, Brandy, I've got other folks wanting in, so let me see.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually really enjoyed speaking to you, and thank you for that. I will look at your book and see and have a good read of that.
All right, thanks for stopping in.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bye.
All right, Ask a Christian, he's back.
Yeah,
We accidentally let two people in last time.
Yeah, I had to drop off because I had a phone call.
Okay, well, what's up? What's on your mind?
So, you're a philosopher or a historian?
I'm a truth seeker. I find lies and I expose the lies.
I see. So you were talking about the invention of Christianity, and also you discounted Tacitus' testimony on whatever was somehow...
No, I didn't discount it. I say that Tacitus does not testify that Jesus existed.
Yeah, he didn't, but he wrote about what people actually held to be true in the first century.
Correct. Of course, I agree with that. Tacitus wrote about what Christians believed. Christians believed that their Messiah died under Pontius Pilate. That's exactly what Tacitus wrote. Tacitus is not saying that that's true. In fact, he says that Christianity was a mischievous superstition. That means it was an evil lie. So,
How do you know that?
how do I know that? Because Tacitus actually wrote that Christianity was a mischievous superstition.
No, he never said Christianity is a mischievous superstition.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. In the very next sentence, after he says that Christus was suffered the most extreme penalty under the hands of one of our own procurators, Pontius Pilate, in the very next sentence, he says this mischievous superstition had its first origin in Judea, and it moved to where all things despicable come from the city of Rome.
He never said this mischievous superstition was in... He never said that.
Yes, he did. All you got to do is read.
The word that was used is and. He listed a couple of items, and then he brought the conjunction and then he made that, and this mischievous, superstition. He was talking about a completely different superstitious belief.
No, he wasn't. It is the very next sentence after he said Jesus was crucified by Pontius Pilate. He says this mischievous superstition
Can we look at it?
had its first... I can't pull it up. No, I don't have a computer where I can pull it up.
Yeah, because most scholars keep debating on that particular aspect up to today. What was he specifically referring to? And
he's referring to what he just said in the sentence before it, that Christians call themselves Christians because of a man named Christus who suffered under Pontius Pilate. And this mischievous superstition had its origin in Judea and moved to where all things despicable come, Rome.
wish I had my computer here.
I'm quoting it directly.
No. That's not the exact words that was used. I've read it so many times. Now, he listed 3 different things.
Actually, wait. You know what? I do have something. Okay. Oh crap! Wait a second. I've got it.
All right. So, guys, my argument is very simple. That the things that were mentioned by Tacitus were a list of items that he
I put all my books in I packed them up, so I don't have it.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Then I think we should move away from Tacitus and then talk about something else. So you were talking about the Romans actually inventing Christianity. What's your strongest evidence for that? The most strongest evidence you have?
Josephus. The War of the Jews.
So which the antiquity of the Jews? Okay, so I'm listening.
No, I said the War of the Jews.
The War of the Jews. Okay.
And so there was a war between the Romans and the Jews, and Josephus doesn't say a single word about Jesus or Christianity in all of his writings. He never mentioned Jesus or Christianity. So Christians added the Testimonium Flavianum in the 4th century because it was so embarrassing that Josephus didn't write about Jesus that they had to add it to cover their tracks.
Do you know that the particular page that people claim is a contradiction or was somehow a forgery? Do you know that's not the only page that Josephus actually talk about Jesus Christ? Are you aware of that?
So yes, there's another mention where it talks about James, the brother of Jesus. And
so what's your point? I'm asking specific question because almost all the materials that you looked up, that you're bringing up, I'm very familiar with those documents as well.
So
I'm going to ask you, I want to understand, like, what's your strongest evidence pointing to the fact that in the 60s AD, the Roman Empire actually invented Christianity? What's your strongest historical evidence?
My book, Jesus Demigod. You should read it. I've got. Listen. So what you're doing right now is saying, if you can't convince me in one statement, then I won't believe it. I wrote a whole book dedicated to this. So don't try to say if I can't prove it in 1 point in 30 seconds, it's false. So listen.
Okay.
There was a war. Listen. This is where you use your ears. Okay. Listen to what I'm about to say. The Romans and the Jews were at war. It was a significant war. It was the entire legacy of the Flavian dynasty. So the Jews were rebelling against Rome because they thought. So you have a hard time listening.
Which years are we talking about? I want to be able to map over you.
So Vespasian became the Caesar in 69, and he had already started a war with the Jews that was started under the Emperor Nero in 66.
Okay.
So I'm talking about Josephus and the War of the Jews starting in the year 66 under the Roman Emperor Nero. Vespasian was the general of Nero's army, and then when Nero died, there was a great turmoil, civil war in Rome, and Vespasian wound up being the Caesar in 69. So you with me now on the timeline?
Yes, exactly. So now where exactly does the Bible comes in or Christianity comes in?
Sometime after the war, because the war is what motivated the creation of Christianity.
Okay, so why do scholars actually date, the book of Romans to about 53 to 60 AD?
Because they're dishonest liars. The reason they do that is because the book of Acts gives a timeline for when Paul lived, and if Paul actually wrote Romans, then he would have had to have written it before the war, but yet Romans chapter 11 proves that it was written after the war. So
why is non-Christian historians actually agree solely on that date?
They don't. So there is a general consensus because they're all ignorant losers who are teaching lies. Because listen, all you got to do is read Romans 11 and you find out that it was written after the war. And so they've got some motivation. So Bart Ehrman has a job where he is teaching New Testament history at a college. And so if he says that the Bible is completely unreliable, which he essentially does, I'm surprised he hasn't lost his job already.
He actually said that.
But yet
he's still working there.
So, but he is absolutely.
He actually said the Bible cannot be trusted. Is very, 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 incredible. But he said that he never loses his job for it.
But then he says
he's richer than most of those guys who are actually heading him and are investing.
So listen.
So what's your point?
My point is that scholars have a conflict of interest. They're not telling you the truth. They are liars because they have money on the line. I'm here for the truth and the truth only. And I study why people say what they say. I've watched several scholars, including Bart Ehrman and several other scholars, explain why they think that Jesus was a real person. And the only reason any scholar ever gives for the existence of Jesus is because the Bible says so. But yet Bart Ehrman says the Bible is unreliable, but yet he says the reason I believe Jesus existed as a man, not as a miracle worker, and this is something that people need to understand. Bart Ehrman says that Jesus was a regular human. He says he was a regular human who didn't perform any miracles. He was a Jewish teacher who died.
He said we can never know whether Jesus Christ performed any miracles. The whole perimeter.
No, that is not what Bart Ehrman says. Bart Ehrman definitively says.
Wrongly earlier, but that's fine.
Bart Ehrman definitively says Jesus did not walk on water. Jesus did not heal 5,000 people with bread and fish.
No,
he did not resurrect from the dead.
He doesn't believe that. He said he doesn't believe that. But he's not saying that on historical grounds. History doesn't deal with miracles at all. So when a historian makes a claim on miracles, he's specifically talking about his prejudice on the subject. But I don't want us to run away from the subject. Let's go back into 69 AD to about 75 AD. I want to see where Christianity was actually invented. Can you give us some sources?
Josephus.
Okay, so what did Josephus actually say that made you think that Christianity was invented?
So Josephus, who was born in 37 in Jerusalem to a prominent Jewish family, never said a single word about some miracle man who came and performed any miracles or resurrected from the dead. He didn't say anything about the movement of Christianity. So this guy was his father would have been an eyewitness to Jesus himself, and he never mentions him. So Josephus was unaware of, yes, absolutely sure that the two mentions that are in Josephus's writings are absolute Christian forgeries. They are fake. They are added because it is embarrassing to Christianity that Josephus didn't talk about it.
Can we talk about the second one, which most scholars actually agree is actually genuine?
So all they did for the second
one. What evidence do you have to say?
Okay, so
what evidence do you have? So far, you haven't given me any evidence. You talked about Josephus.
Okay, so listen.
Okay,
listen. Listen, dude. I just gave you evidence that Josephus, if you take out the two mentions of Jesus, because these are highly contested, I will talk about the second one, and I will explain to you how it is completely untrustworthy. That these are, one of them is just a word. All they did was add who was called the Christ. So you take who was called the Christ out of there, and he's talking about Jesus, the son of Damnius. It even tells that in the very next sentence that the Jesus who was appointed priest when James, his brother, died was James's brother, whose name was Jesus, who was the son of Damnius, who was appointed as the priest after his brother died. It's not the Jesus of the Bible. It's not the Jesus of Christianity. It was a man who was the son of Damnius who was appointed as a priest after James died. This dude was still alive. He was appointed as a priest. He's not the biblical Jesus. He was not the crucified Jesus. All they did was add who was called the Christ so that brain dead people who can't read will just believe that this is a reference to the biblical Jesus.
Jeff, you have 170 people watching you right now, and I believe some of them also have really done their research on this. I'm going to ask you this question. In which of those two testimonials that Josephus actually referred Jesus Christ as a sorcerer.
He didn't call him a sorcerer. The Testimonium does not call Jesus a sorcerer. The Testimonium Flavianum says that Jesus was a wise man, if you could call him a man, who worked, he was a doer of wonderful deeds, and he was a teacher of the truth to those who love the truth, and he died, and he was seen by his followers who never rejected him after the third day, and he says he fulfilled 10,000 prophecies. Every single word of the Testimonium, and I essentially quoted all of it, is glowing praise for the Jewish Messiah that Josephus did not even believe in. He didn't believe that he was a superhuman figure, that if you could even call him a man. He didn't believe that he fulfilled Jewish prophecies. He didn't believe that he was resurrected from the dead. He didn't even know that he existed. So every single word is completely fake. And scholars, there are a lot of scholars that admit this. There's a man named Louis Feldman who wrote a book called Josephus in Modern Scholarship in the 20th century, and he did a survey of 52 scholars who studied this from every angle they could look at it, and 48 out of the 52 said at least part of this is obviously added by Christians. There were 4 brain-dead people who says, oh no, Josephus absolutely said this. You have to be completely brainless to think that Josephus wrote that Jesus was a superhuman figure who fulfilled the Jewish prophecies, who was called the Christ. You cannot have a brain if you think Josephus wrote that.
It's good I'm asking you questions rather than telling you the story. So why do you think most scholars also somehow see Josephus, Tacitus, Suetonius, Livy as also somehow reporting about the early Christian history? Why do you think they do that?
They were reporting on what Christians were believing, but none of those people can testify to whether what they believed were true or not. In fact, Tacitus even says what they believed was not true. And
no, that's not true. I told you that's not true, and you said
it is true. You should go read it. I'm going to open up my book over there and read it.
Thank you.
You know what?
Okay.
I'm going to open up my book out of this package.
That's good. Oh my God.
I'll waste this paper.
Guys, all I want you guys to do is to pay attention to the literary structures that were used. Our Tacitus. It's true that Tacitus also referred to some aspect of Christian, practices as mischievous superstition. But that's not all he said.
All right. So I've got it right here. I've got the quote from Tacitus. So this is how.
Can you read it?
How well organized my book is. You can quickly turn to whatever you're looking for.
Okay.
So, but all the human efforts, all the lavish gifts of the emperor, and the propitiations of the gods did not banish the sinister belief that the conflagration was the result of an order. What that's saying is, people thought that Nero commanded that Rome be burned. So Nero was taking some heat from people who were saying that Nero actually burned Rome himself. And so Nero had to do something to destroy this idea that he burned Rome himself. So consequently, back to the quote, to get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations called Christians. By the populace.
Can you pause there? So in that particular situation, he was narrating history. Do you agree with me on that? Just this phrase, what Nero did.
So Tacitus was writing in the early 2nd century. So okay. Tacitus, he was born in 56, so he was 10 years old when Nero died. So he's not talking about something that he saw himself. He's talking about something that was, something that was reported shortly before, while he was a kid.
Historians doesn't have to see things before they record.
Okay, so I agree with you. He's reporting about the fire that maybe he didn't.
Pay attention. Okay, so the first phrase, we know what Nero did to the Christians, and do you agree that is a historical fact?
Do I agree that Nero...
Do you agree it happened historically?
No. All I can agree to is that this is what Tacitus said. We cannot say that what Tacitus said is true.
Oh my God. Okay. Do you have
all we can say is that this is what Tacitus said.
On the contrary.
So, do you understand that the word Christian was used in many different ways that is not even tied to the guy that you know of Jesus today? That there was a Serapis cult that was called Christians also. The word Christ in Greek simply means an anointed one, and this was used for many different people. In fact,
about the first century, Tacitus was talking about the first century, brother.
Correct. And in the first century, there was a Christian cult called the Serapis cult.
Oh my God. That has to do with what Alexandra did with the Greek and
also, you could call the rebellious Jews Christians because they were rebelling because they thought that their Messiah came up in the name of John of Giscala or Simon Bar Gora or something like that. And so they were Christians because they believed in a Messiah who was going to liberate them from Rome. So this could be a reference to what you and I know of as Jews today, or it could have been something that was as Jews today, or it could have been as Jews today, or it could have been. We got a bad echo. So let's go back to read this comment. So
you have to come back in as a Christian.
So I think what he was trying to say is simply because it used the word Christian, this means it's the Christians that you and I know today. First of all, it does not mean that. But let me finish reading this quote. So Christus, from whom the name had its origin. So first, Jesus' name was not Christus, and there could have been somebody else named Christus.
It's actually Christus. Christus,
C-H-R-I-S-T-U-S, Christus. That's what I have written in the book.
No historian actually disagree that they were actually referring to the Christus in relation to the Christians in the first century. If you can name me just one historian, that would be fine.
So there is a lot of debate about why Tacitus chose to call him Christus. That is a huge debate. People do not unanimously agree, this is absolutely a reference to Jesus. It probably is a reference to Jesus because it's
writing about a story that took place in the first century. And around that time period, there was a certain group of people who were the Christians. It's not in relation to any other context that somehow infer other Christians that existed, like the surface thing you brought up. So we are referring to a specific case, and if you read right from the top to the down, you know he was narrating history about what took place in the first century. So you can play semantics as much as you wanted, but I want us to go into the content. The first claim has been made, the second one has been made. Can we go to the third one?
Well, so
and guys, you need to know at the end of every phrase he bring the word end. Okay.
So let's read the quote. Let me finish reading the quote. So, the only reason I was talking about Christians is because Christian is not a word that is exclusively used for what you and I know of as Christianity today. And you should be able to admit that. Calling Jesus Christus is also suspicious, and scholars debate why Tacitus chose to call this name. But he says Christus, from whom the name had its origin. So he says the word Christian came from a guy named Christus, which there was no guy named Christus. But he suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our own procurators, Pontius Pilate. So that is clearly a reference to what the Christians believed, what the Bible says that Jesus was crucified.
Nero. We're talking about Nero, right? And what Nero actually did. And remember, after every phrase, he brings the word end. So he move on to the next content, the next list, and the next list. So he's referring to history. The only place he disagrees is when it comes to the mischievous superstition thing he talked about. Some scholars agree that he is actually referring to the resurrection of Jesus Christ, which became the most mischievous superstition. It's not in Tacitus, but most scholars actually hold to that view.
Okay,
but
so
let's take it one by one.
Okay, so it says he suffered an extreme penalty under Tiberius and Pontius Pilate, and a most mischievous superstition. This is the very next word. And the mischievous. Yeah. So and means it's related to the thing that was spoken of before. He's not bringing up a brand new topic that is unrelated to what he was just saying.
Listen, when you look at the contents that were mentioned earlier, he mentioned 3 different contents. Which one was superstitious? Is it that Christians were unalived? Or the name Christian comes from Christus? Or which specific element of what he mentioned was superstitious?
That's up for debate. But the mischievous superstition. Listen, dude. Listen. You don't listen. I want to have a conversation with you, but whenever I start talking, you don't start talking while I'm talking. You need to demonstrate that you are listening to what I'm saying so that we can actually have a back and forth conversation. We're looking at what Tacitus said. So if you're claiming that the mischievous superstition had nothing to do with anything that it was said before, is that what you're saying?
That's my argument all this while.
So you're saying that even that it is not related to anything, that it was about talking about Christianity.
No, it's in relation to something about Christianity, but scholars debate on what that thing is.
Okay, so
and then most of them actually think that it's about the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
He didn't mention the resurrection. He didn't even mention the resurrection.
I'm not saying he mentioned it. But then look at the way he actually phrased it. Can we read the mischievous superstition?
Right. So, and the most mischievous superstition, thus checked for a moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. Accordingly, an arrest was first made of all who pleaded guilty. Then, upon their information, an immense multitude was convicted, so not so much of a crime of firing the city as of hatred against mankind. So clearly, whatever mischievous superstition he's talking about is related to the Christian movement. You cannot from the text say, well, he's talking about one specific thing, because he doesn't identify the one specific thing. He says that it is an evil, mischievous superstition that started in Judea and it made its way to Rome, and that these people were not condemned for setting Rome on fire. They were condemned because of their hatred of mankind. That Christians, these people that believed in Jesus, who was persecuted and crucified by Pontius Pilate, these people were evil people who hated mankind and that they believed in lies. This is what Tacitus said. And there is no way that you can logically interpret this to support that Christianity, that Tacitus said that Jesus was either a true character or that the mischievous superstition is pointing to anything other than Christianity. He says it's a wicked, evil lie, that it was evil in Judea, it was evil in Rome, and anybody who believed this garbage, they were persecuted not because they believed in Jesus or because they set a city on fire, but because they were evil human beings who didn't contribute to society. This is what Tacitus testifies about Christianity. Now, all we know is that this is what we have that Tacitus said. We don't even know that Tacitus said this. It's a 2,000-year-old writing that has been, handled a million times. So things could have been changed, things could have been added, things could have been taken out. But this is the best that we have of what Tacitus said. And Tacitus didn't even get Jesus' name. He didn't know what his name was. He thought that his name was Christus, which is why the Christians called themselves Christians. So there's tons of problems with it.
you want the same guy back in? You want to have somebody else come in?
Well, let somebody else. He's been in a few times, and we'll let him in later. Let somebody else. That guy's gone.
Jade, are you there? I accepted you.
Looks like he's still connecting to me. Looks like he's not going to make it.
Looks like Ask a Christian is back.
Oh, okay. You brought me back. Thanks. So what I was trying to say is that from the way you communicated Tacitus earlier, there was a little bit of willful misrepresentation in the way you put the language. You said that...
So pause right there. Listen, dude. Listen. Every word that I say is said from the heart and is sincere. And if you want to accuse me of willfully misleading people, then I'm not going to allow you ever to come back. So you can be respectful,
okay,
or you can say, I disagree with you. But you cannot say that I willfully misled anybody. Because I don't.
Okay, fine. I retract the statement. But obviously, the way you put the statement, you made it seem like Tacitus is trying to say that the claims in Tacitus are mischievous superstition.
No, I'm not saying that Tacitus is calling himself a liar. I'm saying that Tacitus is saying Christianity was the mischievous superstition.
No, that's not what we read.
You may read it again.
And you yourself agree that you don't know what specifically he meant by mischievous superstition. But earlier you made it seem like, yeah, you knew it. And that's my problem with the whole argument you made on Tacitus.
So let's read it again.
That is misrepresentation.
I'm reading it. Let's read the quote and we'll see what any logical person would say. So.
Okay, but can you give me 1 second? Because you interpret everything in that book and I never got a chance to actually do it since I dropped for just give me a minute, please. So what we see in Tacitus actually mentioned almost about 3 different things that took place during that time period. Okay? And then he goes to and a mischievous superstition. Now, which of the 3 is he specifically talking about? Is it every single thing he talked about or a specific thing? So that's my question to you.
Okay, so let's pick up right there where he says, so he's making a reference to Jesus who died under Pontius Pilate, and then he says, and a most mischievous superstition thus checked for the moment again broke out, not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome. So the mischievous superstition is not looking backwards at what he, the 3 specific things he talked about.
Exactly.
He's talking about the movement that broke out in Judea. He's talking about Christianity as a whole.
No, I agree. But
he's talking about the belief that these people, that they were, the thing that was motivating them to do and believe what they believed. He said that is an evil, mischievous superstition. Christianity itself, the whole movement.
No,
not some belief that the Christians were burned Rome, not some belief that Christians were being persecuted in Rome, not some belief that Jesus died under Pontius Pilate, but the entire group of people, the movement that broke out in Judea is what he's calling the mischievous superstition.
Yes, I have no problem with that. But my argument is that if you say it has nothing to do with the 3 elements he mentioned earlier, then you have to accept that Tacitus somehow presents a knowledge of Christianity stemming from Christus. And we can debate on who this Christus is. superstition has nothing to do with.
He's saying these people called. He's saying the people call themselves Christians. These people that are that he's talking about a group of people. And he's saying these people call themselves Christians because of some guy named Christus who died under Pontius Pilate. And he says this group of people that you and I would call Christians, that these believers in Jesus, this group of people they hated mankind, they were evil, and the movement itself was a mischievous superstition.
Okay.
That's clearly what he's saying. Any logical person knows that's what he's saying. Are you saying that he's saying something different?
My argument is that he recorded history on things that is undeniable, and then he goes to talk about something that he claims is mischievous.
So I absolutely disagree with you that Tacitus is testifying that Jesus was actually crucified by Pontius Pilate. He's saying that the Christians believe this. Not that it actually happened. He's saying that they are evil. He's saying they believe in lies. It's a mischievous superstition. Tacitus in no way provides a testimony that Jesus actually was crucified. He only testifies that there were people who called themselves Christians who believed that Christ was crucified under Pontius Pilate. He's testifying to their belief, and he's saying that they are ignorant, that they believe lies, and that they are evil people that hate mankind. So, sorry. Tacitus says that Christianity is a mischievous superstition, that these people were evil liars, and they believed lies, and that they hated mankind. You don't hate me because I'm reading what Tacitus said. You know what? If you want to believe in history, believe it. Tacitus said Christians were liars. But you say, no, we don't believe that part of what Tacitus said. We only believe the part where he says Christus died under Pontius Pilate. We accept that part, but we reject the rest of it. So this is Tacitus' testimony. Tacitus said Christianity was a mischievous superstition, that these people were evil liars who believed lies. Okay, fine. They're liars. And this is in the early 2nd century, late 1st, early 2nd century. Tacitus is saying these Christians are liars. All right, nobody else in the box right now. But see, that's what's good about even the organization of this book. You see, I knew when we were talking about Tacitus, hey Marina, that I needed to go to my chapter on history. So I've got a heading at the top that says history, and then I've got headings. I don't know if you can see that or not. Bold headings for each different character that I talked about in the book. So it's well organized. People want to say, what does, Philo of Alexandria say, or what does Tacitus say, or Suetonius, or Pliny the Younger, or the Jewish tradition, the Talmud. I've got it organized. It's easy to find all this stuff. The name of the book is Jesus Demigod, Putting the Lord on Trial. This book will absolutely...
You guys can click on the lower left-hand side. You'll see two little squares that look like books. They're by a star. If you click on that, you can get a book.
But see, that is only the series. So... And that is videos in a TikTok series where I'm reading the book. If you want to purchase the book, you can purchase it in my TikTok shop. But I've only got 3 books, and I'm finding out it's really annoying to even ship, because I sold 3 books on TikTok shop yesterday. I went to the post office this morning to try to ship it, and I have to go print the things. I don't have a printer at the house, so I've got to go print the stuff somewhere and then take it to the post office. But it says in the TikTok shop that I can just take it to the post office and they'll print the label for me, but they wouldn't. There's no thing in the TikTok shop that says here's the QR code for you to print the label. It wasn't even there. So they make it annoying to even try to ship the stuff out. I got to go find a printer and then print the label.
You don't have the TikTok shop thing on today like you did yesterday or the day before.
Let's see. I don't know if I can do add products.
I want you to be aware too, Jeff, there's 53 shares for your live today. That's pretty good.
Let's see. You know what? I can add the book right now. I think it's going to take the series off. I think I just added the actual TikTok shop book. I've only got 3 copies that I'm signing them and mailing them out.
Yeah, there you go. It's on.
So it's the book now? Oh. But
yes.
You can buy directly from Amazon. The UPS store can print out the labels from the code. But see, big boy, I don't have the code. That's the problem. The TikTok shop does not give me a QR code. When I went to the post office, they said if you have a QR code, we can print it. But there is no QR code in the TikTok shop. So the TikTok shop needs to put QR codes in there. You could take it to UPS or USPS, show them the code, they'll print the label. But there's no code in the TikTok shop. So the only thing that I know to do is to print it myself and then I can mail it. So I've only got 3 paperbacks that I can mail out from TikTok shop right now. If there's a demand for it, I'll get some more books. But to me, I would rather you just buy direct from Amazon. Now, I know TikTok don't like that, and I think Amazon is a bad word around here. So, but at the AMAZ store, and you can buy it direct from there. You can either get a paperback or the Kindle ebook directly from the AMAZON store. It's a really good book, and it disproves Christianity. I mean, indisputably. You cannot
So who wants to come up? Who wants to come up next?
So the last guy I was talking to, trying to twist Tacitus to support Christianity somehow, because he don't like the fact that he called Christianity a mischievous superstition. There you go, Highwayman. Yeah, from the AMAZ store. Pin and introduce a product. Go to pin. Let me see if I can pin. But look, I can pin the book. So now I just pinned it. I don't know what it did, but it should be pinned now. But what I just pinned is only 3.
It came up as a big white box at the bottom of the screen, and it has your book over to the left with the price, and then it has a red buy button.
All right, cool. So my book disproves Christianity. This book, Jesus Demigod, this is the book that I have pinned. You can buy from TikTok shop, or you can buy directly from AMAZON. You can get a paperback or an ebook from there. The reason to buy from TikTok shop is, TikTok shop is offering some coupons and stuff, so you can probably get it cheaper. I've only got it priced at $12, but with the coupons, you can get stuff knocked off of that. But this book, if you're an honest person looking for the truth, you can't be a Christian after you read this book, because the evidence is overwhelming against Christianity. And actually, it is very, very liberating and freeing to know that Christianity is false, because it's so narrow-minded and judgmental and evil, threatening eternal hellfire for people who don't believe this stuff. And when so I know I'm not going to go to hell. I know I'm not going to burn because I don't believe a story. And it makes me so, brokenhearted that people actually believe that if they don't believe a 2,000-year-old story, that they're going to be tortured for all eternity. Any God who threatens to torture you simply because you don't believe a story that you have no evidence for is an evil God. And yet so many people are enslaved by this fear that they have to believe something to avoid eternal torture. It is an evil religion. I mean, Tacitus, we just got through reading Tacitus. He said that it was that these people were persecuted for the hatred of mankind. And I understand that because I've got people that I have loved all throughout my life that have shunned me and kicked me out of their life. And one of them just did it, the last day or two. And this guy's on his deathbed, dying of cancer, and he's still over there saying to all his friends that if they don't believe in Jesus, they're going to be lost for all eternity. It is a destructive, abusive system that would even make you think that your loved ones are going to be burning in fire for all eternity.
Yeah, my father is a Christian, and every one of his brothers and sisters have passed away. He's the only one left living. He's 75. He just blocked me and stuff this morning. But anyway, he knows, or thinks he knows, all of his brothers and sisters have went to hell because they didn't know God, because I was raised in an atheist family. But my dad is saved now, and he's fine with it. He said, well, they missed out. They're down there burning now because they wouldn't listen to me.
That's so it's so sad that people can even accept a God that was going to torture your loved ones. And I bet his brothers and sisters were all good people too. He's saying they're being tortured just simply because they don't believe a story.
Yep, they were good people.
And most people are good. But Christians are some of the worst people because they teach this doctrine of eternal punishment. Why can't they teach love? Why can't they teach, why don't God come and send a message that if you just love your neighbor? In fact, the Bible even says this. It's in 1 John 4:20 says that whoever says that you should love God whom you've not seen and that you should hate your brother whom you have seen is a liar. And the truth is not in him. So all Christians have to believe that you should love God and hate your brother. You condemn your brother to eternal torture, but as long as you love God, then it's okay to hate your brother. We got somebody new. What's up, God created?
Hi.
Chinese language?
God created. I'm God creator. I create God.
Oh, yeah. I've talked to you before, haven't I?
Yes, I'm the God creator. I agree with almost everything you say.
Yeah.
These people, these Romans created Jesus and Christianity. They are like God creators. They're like my ancestors. They created a con man. They're the con man. They're the first generation.
Are you a con man?
I'm not a con man. I tell you, I create God. Only those who say that they found God when they created a con man. I'm the God creator. I tell the truth. I actually say, let there be God, and there's God.
Yeah, I definitely talked to you before.
I'm the guy who say I found God when they actually created God. Maybe they found the God I created and left it there. I left a lot of God all over. I just created one 2 minutes ago. I create another one. I say, let there be God. And there's another one. And then, you know what? These Christians found the God that I created. So I'm like their daddy, their granddaddy, their great-granddaddy. And yet they hate God creator. Why do you Christians hate God creator and love the God I created? Ask them that question.
Well, they don't think you created it, though.
Well, I did. They only found God, like they said.
They know that you didn't write the Bible, so you weren't alive when the Bible was written, so they can't give you credit for it.
Oh, no. Be honest. It's the spirit that counts, not the body. It's the God created spirit that was there before God that counts. It was not the body. God told you very clearly that the body is just a vessel. It's the spirit. So my spirit is there before God.
So I think when I switched it to, I'm going to take my, I'm going to take this thing off of here.
Yeah, you should tell these people that there was God creator before God. There was always a God creator before God. God was created by God creator. The Christian Bible is so incomplete. They left the whole chapter out of the God creator. If they put the God creator back in, it'll be more complete. It's true of every religion. They left the God creator out. The God creator is the one who created all these things.
Yeah.
And I am the God creator. And you could join the family of God creator.
Oh no.
You are not a God creator.
Yeah, so hold up a second. So I did take the TikTok shop off right then because I got a notification from TikTok that I was violating some sort of policy by promoting a product, but yet I haven't designated this as a promotional product live. But I did. When I started this live, I set it up as a promotional creation, but I think when I switched it from the series to the book, I think it changed something, and so I just had to take it off because it said I was breaking the rules. So you're not supposed to change stuff after you start.
You need to put on your background, Jeff, underneath read my books, put in there in my bio.
Yeah. Let me see if I can do something.
I'd like to ask you something. I start a live and talk about God creator, and then somehow TikTok banned me left and right because I actually created God for them. How could you stay on so that and build your follower? Because every time I build up to a few thousand, they ban me. I got a few thousand, they ban me, and they just threw me out because I want to tell them that I'm the God creator. I create God for them. And their God is nothing but their imagination. That I could create these God. These God, whether it be the Christian God, whether it be the Bible God, whether it be the Muslim God, or even the Buddhist God, and all the God. I just speak them to existence. These fictional character is what it really is. It's a fictional character powered by belief. And I will create them as many as I want.
Hey, Precious, I'm thinking about shutting down. I may go live again later. I've been toying with the TikTok shop, and I believe there's all sorts of restrictions. The reason that I had fewer viewers last night is because I started the live, and I posted the TikTok shop, my book, and I didn't turn on the setting that says it's a promotional live or something, and it says I was violating code, so it was shadow banning me or whatever because I was promoting a product but didn't say so. So then I started this live. I turned on the promotional product live, but I changed it from promoting the series to promoting the book. And then I think it changed the settings. So I'm thinking about just shutting down the live for right now and maybe starting another one up later today.
All right.
All right. Nice talking to you again, God Creator.
Nice talking to you. Have a wonderful day. I'll come by if I see you.
All right. I like it when you say, let there be God. I like it when you say that.
I do create God.
Say it one more time for me.
Yes. Let there be God. And there is God. I just create another one. The Christian, other guy might find another one. Yeah, I created millions and billions of them, and that's why they all keep finding God. Yep. But they never know where the origin of God came from. You ask them, they say it was eternal. No, it was there after I created and left it there. I'm the grand unified. I'm the one that unified all religion, all the God. Without me, there is no God. There will never be a God, a God creator. A God creator.
All right.
Created all God, the grand unified. Thanks for letting me out. Have a wonderful day. I wish you the best. You do a great job. I'm going to give you a rose.
All right. Appreciate it.
His voice reminds me of that cartoon with the panda there that does karate.
Yeah, the Kung Fu Panda?
Yeah, that's what his voice reminds me of, the little duck or the goose, the panda's dad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the panda's dad. Yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah.
The one that makes noodles all the time.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to shut down for now. I'll catch you guys later. I got to figure out how to do this TikTok shop stuff or whatever.